Jon Jones, or as I like to call him, Mr. Johnny Turinabol, the current UFC heavyweight champion of the world. Most title defenses in UFC light heavyweight history, most wins ever in UFC light heavyweight history, and the only ever fighter to ever beat 5 former UFC champions consecutively. He's basically what the entire MMA community like to call the greatest fighter of all time. Well, he's recently came out with this statement saying that in preparation for his fight against his interim champion in Tom Aspinall, he will need a whopping 6 whole months in order to prepare. And so I think it's time that we all as UFC fans come to the collective consensus that enough is enough, Johnny Turinabol. You either fight Tom and unify the heavyweight championship, or you vacate the title and ride off into the sunset. Nothing more, nothing less. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share so you can help me reach 2,000 subscribers by May. I'll deeply appreciate you. And make sure you join the official UFC Discord, link in the description. Alright, so look, at this point, it's becoming painfully obvious that Johnny Turinabol Jones, the very much disputed heavyweight champion of the world, is actively avoiding a fight with his interim heavyweight champion in Tom Aspinall. And so you see, there's been some recent news about Johnny Turinabol in the headlines lately. A statement from Johnny saying that he will be requesting 6 months in order to prepare for Big Tom. And if you ask me, this is nothing short of absolutely embarrassing. Because look, we all know that this is just a blatant attempt in order to delay what should be the most anticipated fight in UFC. No, scratch that. All of combat sports heavyweight history. And given Mr. Turinabol's track record, I think it's reasonable enough to speculate that he might be using this time to not only cycle through his steroid as well as performance enhancing drugs, but to, also flush them out of his system before stepping into the octagon and facing off against Big Tom Aspinall. And so you see, I've honestly been thinking about these new sudden turn of events really. And this entire situation quite literally mirrors the whole Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler saga, where Iron Michael wasted nearly 2 years of his entire career as well as his prime years waiting for a fight that never materialized. But you see, Chandler, sort of already being at the latter end of his career, somewhat could have afforded a bit of time off. I mean, he already built himself an established career in Bellator. And so other than acquiring the undisputed UFC gold, he already had a thoroughly cemented legacy. But for Big Tom, he's currently at the tippity top, the peak of his prime. And so wasting 6 months or possibly even more on an uncertain fight against a proven cracked out lunatic would have been the most detrimental thing he could have not only done to his entire career, but also the entire UFC heavyweight division as a whole. I mean, for Christ's sake, Big Tom has already demonstrated that he is the best active heavyweight in the world right now, with finishing a guy like Sergey Pavlovich in dominant fashion for the interim belt, and then later defending said belt against Curtis Blades, proving that he is a worthy champion. I mean, you name me off of the top of your head 5 interim champions to defend their interim chips. I'll wait. Alright then. The UFC needs to take action ASAP and strip Johnny Turinabol of the undisputed heavyweight title if he refuses to fight within a reasonable time frame. I mean, Tom Aspinall should not be left in limbo, waiting for a fight that might never happen. Instead, he should, move forward and take on another top contender, such as maybe a Cyril Gane or maybe a Gelson Almeida. This way, it not only keeps Big Tom active, but it also builds his legacy, as well as applies a lot more pressure onto Johnny Turinabol to either fight this fight or vacate the belt. Plus, a fight against Cyril Gane in particular would low-key be a super intriguing stylistic matchup. I mean, Big Tom would quite literally have the opportunity to decisively beat a former interim champion who has also faced off against Johnny Turinabol in the past, creating an even stronger argument that he is the rightful, undisputed heavyweight champion. But really though, when you think about it, Tom Aspinall's insanely speedy rise in that heavyweight division has, sort of proven that he's not just your average run-of-the-mill contender fighting out of the 265-pound division, but he's the future of the weight class, period. His speed, his precision, his underrated grappling, and not to mention his youth, quite literally makes him a nightmare matchup for any heavyweight within the 265-pound division, including Johnny Turinabol. And, I just don't think that the UFC can really afford to let such a talent sit on the sidelines due to another fighter's reluctance and, let's just call a spade, horror of what's to come. And look, the fans have already grown restless over Johnny Turinabol's inactivity. And if the UFC and Uncle Fester fails to act now, it kind of risks undermining the legitimacy of the undisputed title. I mean, how can you call yourself the undisputed champion if you're letting your interim champion sit in the queue to collect dust just because you're too pussy to put on your big boy pants and tighten the fuck up? Shit makes no sense to me. But look, let's not sit here and pretend that Johnny's request for 6 months of preparation is anything but a strategic move by Johnny Turinabol. I mean, when he was preparing to take on a 42-year-old coming off a 3-year layoff, off a brutal Francis Ngannou knockout where he got folded like a lawn chair, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, Stipe Miocic, there was zero talk of such a long preparation time. Now that he's faced off against a young, explosive, athletic, powerful, and dangerous opponent in Big Boy Tom, suddenly Mr. Johnny Turinabol needs 6 months of Batman levels of prep time? This is without a shadow of a doubt one of the biggest ducks in UFC history, and the fans should call it out for what it is. And this pattern of behavior from Johnny Bones, to me, sort of suggests that, he's attempting to stall out, hoping that Big Tom either loses interest in this fight or suffers a serious injury in the meantime. And, honestly, this ain't the behavior of a true champion. It's the behavior of a drug-cheating, pill-popping, coked-out, wife-beating fraud trying to protect their legacy by avoiding all the risks. Plain and simple. And to all the Johnny Turinabol glazers out there, and yes, I am talking to you, Uncle Fester, if Jon Jones was so confident that he could tear Tom Aspinall limb from limb, then there would be absolutely zero reason for all of these delays. Instead, he has shown every sign that he wants to avoid this fight by any means necessary. He's even suggested alternative opponents like an Alex Poatan, someone who he knows isn't even a natural heavyweight, and someone who he knows stylistically is just a tailor-made suited matchup for him. All of this in order to sidestep the undeniable challenge that Big Tom puts in front of him. That's low-key why I was kinda glad that Alex didn't beat Magomed Ankalaev when he did, because I know for a fact that Jon would have pushed for this fight and the UFC, as well as Uncle Fester, would have gave it to him. But look, moral of the story. Either Jon Jones steps into the cage and defends his title within a reasonable time frame, or he vacates his belt, automatically promoting Tom Aspinall to the real, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Tom Aspinall should not put his entire career on hold because of Johnny Turinabol's antics. He needs to move on and, maybe continue proving himself against whatever competition is left for him at 265. And then maybe, just maybe he can force Johnny Turinabol into either fighting or to be remembered as the champion who ran away from the biggest challenge of his career. And if the UFC wants to maintain its credibility and not show that they've got favorites, but we all know that they do got favorites, it cannot allow a champion to hold up an entire division hostage simply because he fears the new blood rising will usurp his throne. And so the time for waiting has officially come to an end. And either Johnny Turinabol fights Tom Aspinall, or he gives up the belt and lets the real champion reign supreme. But that's all I've got to say for this video. Let me know in the comment section below, what are your guys' overall thoughts on Johnny Ball coming out to say that he needs a whopping 6 whole months in order to prepare against Tom Aspinall in order for them to unify their undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. And who do you guys have in their inevitable showdown? Tom Aspinall or Jon Jones? Let me know in the comment section below. But that about wraps up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao. Fuck you, Jon Jones.